Hi guys, Melissa here with TCT Crafts. Today we are going to make a Christmas design and we're going to do something a little bit different. So if you watched any of my tutorials before, I typically like to use the artificial pine wreath bases to make my wreaths. But I do have a few of these wire wreath forms that I still had in stock, and so I thought, well, let's go ahead and show you guys how to use one of these wreath forms in case you've never done it before or you just don't really like to use the artificial pine wreath bases. You can make a super cute wreath with these, and we're going to do something a little more on the simpler side. Not a lot of supplies. It'll keep the price point down. We don't always have to go over the top, although I'd love to do the over the top wreaths, but we're going to take it down a notch today and do something a little bit more simple but still super cute. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start with a 21-inch mesh. This is just some that I have left over. If you guys hear that noise, I do apologize. They are doing some work outside with the tractor, so it might be a little noisy today, but I wanted to go ahead and get this recorded for you guys. So I just trimmed that off. I drop it to the floor, just kind of scrunch it up, and we're going to start on the very inside ring. So there's an inside ring and an outside ring. We're going to start on the inside ring, and we're just going to make poofs. So they're probably about 10-inch poofs. Now this tutorial will be a little bit longer since I'm starting at the very beginning. A lot of the times I try to have most of the wreath base done so you guys don't have to watch me do the whole thing, but we're going to start from scratch. Maybe this is your first time making a wreath. So I'm just taking these, pulling it through my hands, about 10 inches. It doesn't have to be exact, making a little bubble. Setting it down inside my twist ties and then just tying it off about 2 times. Okay, just going to keep going all the way around. Now on these work forms, typically there are 8 ties at the top and 10 on the bottom. Not always, depends on where you get the wreath forms from. Now I don't have any of these for sale in the shop, but you can check Deco Craft Supplies. That's my affiliate link for Deco Exchange. They typically will carry the work forms in stock, so you might give them a try if you're going to look for one of these. Sometimes you can find them also at like Hobby Lobby. During the Christmas season, you'll find some of the colored ones. Okay, now we're back to where I started. I'm going to go ahead and make one more poof. Open this tie back up and drop this down in there. And that little nub that I started with, I'm just going to kind of tuck it up underneath. So now we have our poofs all the way around the outside. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off. And this was only like half a roll. We still have some left, but we wouldn't have enough to go all the way around the bottom. So I'm going to set this to the side. We're going to work on cutting our 10-inch mesh now for the top. So on the top, because we have the poofs, we don't need to cut our mesh as long as we will on the bottom. So we are going to take 2 different colors of the 10-inch mesh, and I'm going to cut these at about 24 4 inches. So let me get my rotary palette cutter. I haven't used this in a long time because usually I just use scissors. But I want to show you, if you have a rotary cutter, this is how you can do it. Okay. So again, about 24 inches. And we're going to need 8 of these. So there's 2, 4, let's do 2 more. And I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that leftover 21-inch mesh. We're going to use it up. Not really enough to save, so I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so let's set that aside. We have our 8 pieces for the top. So I'm just going to separate them. And I'm just going to take and roll the bottom. I just rolled it up just like I do on my chest. If you've watched the videos how I do it like this, which you still can do, but I'm just doing it on my table about 2 times. And then I'm just going to scrunch it till I get down about the middle, and then I'm going to roll that in so we have a little butterfly. So I'm going to take our top, I'm going to open the tie back up, set this down in there, and tie it nice and tight. Okay, I'm going to alternate my colors, so I'm going to use the next color, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll it a couple times, scrunch it up, and then roll these ends in. Rolling the ends in just helps keep it from fraying as much. So open these ties back up, set that down in there, and tie it. Okay, just going to keep going around. Let's go back to the other color now. I haven't made a wreath on a work form in quite a while, so this is a good little refresher. And if you get the wreath frames from Dollar Tree, because they do have some wreath frames, they're not going to have the ties, but you could just take your pipe cleaners and make your own ties. Do 8 around the top and 10 around the bottom. Add a little dab of glue so that they don't move, and you would have created your own wreath form. So that is exactly how I started back in the day when I started making wreaths. I would use the Dollar Tree wreath forms, make my own ties, and that is how I made my wreaths. Now I just prefer using the artificial pine. I just love the really full wreaths, but that's just my personal preference. We are almost done with the top. So we're not going to use a whole lot of supplies in this tutorial. We're going to keep it fairly simple. It's going to have some mesh, a couple signs, some ribbon, maybe a couple little ornament balls, and that is it. That'll keep it down on price and still super cute. You can use any 10-inch mesh that you want. Do note if you use the value mesh, which is the cheaper thinner mesh. It is going to be thinner, so I would make my cuts larger. So we were able to use 24 inches because this is very thick, like fabric. This one is like a fabric mesh, and this one is like it's a foil border stripe. So it's a little thicker than your value mesh. So if you were to use value mesh, I would go up a good 4 or 5 inches on your cuts, just because you're going to need more of the mesh for the coverage that you want. Okay. So now we have all of the inside done. Now let's do our cuts for the outside. So this time, for the outside, we're going to go 30 inches. So I'm just going to roll it out, and I'm going to cut it 30 inches. We need 10 on this bottom row. Okay, so let's do 2 more. One more. And I just stack these on top of each other so you don't have to make as many cuts. If it's too hard on your hands, you can cut one at a time. My rotary cutter really needs to be sharpened. I have not used it in forever, so it's not cutting quite as good as I would like. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside. Take one of them, and I'm going to roll it exactly the same way that we did the other ones. Scrunch it up. Got a little butterfly. And now we're going to start putting it on the bottom, the outside. Okay, and on this, let's use up, I'll show you, we'll use up some of this. So I'm just going to take, and let me get my scissors. What did I do with them? There they are. Let me just cut it a little bit straighter. Okay, I'm just going to cut about right here. I have no idea. I'll measure for you in just a second. It says about 18 inches. So we're going to get 2 pieces. So let me put those to the side. We've got the one. Let's do our other couple before we use that 21 inch. Okay, now I'm going to take this 21 inch. It already kind of rolled up on itself, but I'm just going to roll it up. Put my fingers in between. Scrunch it up. Gives a little poof. And I'm going to put that in. And then we'll add our little cruffle right on top of it. Just give it a little bit extra fullness to the bottom and use up that 21-inch mesh that we already had. So I'm just going to undo my tie, set that right back down in there. And now we have the little poof, we have a ruffle, and just added a little bit extra coverage there. Just going to keep going around the bottom. Now we only have 2 of these pieces, so we're going to want to go, that one was here, we're going to want to go like on this side of the wreath, we'll put the other one. So let's just keep doing what we're doing until we get to that side. Okay. So we've got our little poof there, so let's go ahead and do our other one. Let's curl that. Put my little fingers in there. Make a little poof. And I'm using this mesh that has a little bit of the, I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of the tan in it, because we're going with a gingerbread sign, actually 2 gingerbread signs. So I wanted to bring in a little bit of that gingerbread color. And y'all bear with me 1 second. I need to get a Band-Aid. I have a little hot glue burn that wants to open up every time I design, and I meant to put a Band-Aid on it and forgot before we started. Okay, so let me put this on there so we don't make a mess on our wreath. Okay. Just wash my hands off a little bit. All right. Now, where were we? This one. We are almost done with this part. Two more pieces. You can see how full our wreath base is already getting just on this metal wreath form. Okay, last piece. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the ties from the top ring, one of the ties from the bottom ring, and I'm just going to twist them together. And the reason I'm doing that is just so I don't get these droopy, it stays nice and compact. You don't see a space in between the first layer and the top layer. It just helps keep it together. So I'm going to go around and do that on every tie. I'm going to take the top and twist it to the bottom. That's just going to help hold those together so you don't see that space in between. Almost done. Okay, so I've gone all the way around. I've tied those together, and we have a nice full wreath base. Now let me show you the stars of our show. We have these super cute little gingerbread signs. So we're going to use the boy and the girl. We're going to put the boy up a little higher, and the girl kind of like right in this general area right in here. How cute! So we do have some of these signs in the shop. We also have them in the Candyland pastel colors. So I'm going to start with the boy here, and I'm just going to feed this. So what I've done is on the back, I put a cable tie mount, and then I have a pipe cleaner, 2 pipe cleaners. I put 2 pipe cleaners together and then ran it down the back, so that we can tie this, sign on where we want them. And I'm just going to take and tie it around this base really good. Some of that off because we don't need all of that on there. Oh my gosh, look what that did, guys. So my little glue mount was not dry and it came right off. So just word to the wise, make sure your little tie mount is done drying before you decide to put him in there. So let me take it back off. Okay, let's try this again. So I added, before I add the hot glue, because this is metal and hot glue can peel right off of metal. So to the bottom of that, I had added a little bit of this Gorilla Glue. And then I just added some of the hot glue as well, just to try to hold that on there. So while that's drying, I know that we're going to have this one here. We're going to have this one here. Let's go ahead and do some, let's go ahead and make a bow for right here and a bow for right up here. So we're going to make two little sort of funky bows. I'm going to set this down for right now so you guys can see. And I'm going to use my Easy Bow Maker. So I'm going to start with a super cute gingerbread ribbon. It's a 2.5 inch. Use whatever ribbon that you have. And I'm going to make about an 8-inch tail. I'll do one going up. I'm going to do about 6-inch loops and twist. And again, about an 8-inch tail. We can trim it down once it's on the wreath. So I've got one loop of that on each side. Okay, then I'm going to add in this red and green polka dot, and the reason I'm adding this one in is just the let's see, like his little buttons. His little buttons look like the little polka dots that's on the ribbon, so I wanted to bring some of that in. Again, about an 8-inch tail. Twist. I'm going to go about 5.5 on my loop. Twist. And we're twisting it so that when we make our little loop, the pretty side of the ribbon is on top. And again, about 5.5. Scrunch it down. Now let's do this red and white stripe. A loop. We're going to go about 5 inches this time. So we're going down about 1/2 inch with every loop we add. Now I'm going to finish it off with this like beige and red polka dot, so it kind of ties in a little bit of that gingerbread color again. And we're going about 1/2 inch shorter. Okay. Now I'm going to take a zip tie. You can use a pipe cleaner if you prefer. I like to use zip ties. I'm just going to slide it up underneath there. Make it tight, but not too tight, because we want to make sure that this gets positioned in the center. I'm going to put my pipe cleaner through the back. I'm going to fix all my tails and my loops before I cinch it and make it super tight. Okay. So we've got one bow. We're going to do the exact same thing and make one more of these. So again, I'm going to go about 8 inches on my tail, twist. I'm going to go about 6 inches on our loop, twist, six inches, and just scrunch it down. Okay, let me go back in with this one. Our tail's going to go the other direction, so this one went to the right, this one's going to go to the left. Scrunch it, and make sure I get a good scrunch, or good twist, not scrunch, good twist. Okay, now we're going to go about 5 1/2, twist it, and scrunch it down. Okay, going with this red one. It's going to go to the right, twist, about 1/2 inch shorter, twist, and scrunch it down. And then this one will be 1/2 inch shorter than the red one. And it doesn't have to be exact, just eyeball it. As long as the loops are pretty much the same size on either side, you're good. Okay. Get my zip tie. Slide it under. Take my pipe cleaner and put it in the back. Make it tight, but not too tight, so that we can make sure these are how we want them. Okay. Then I'm just going to cut the excess off. Okay, we're done with our bow maker. I'm going to put it to the side. And I'm going to get this. I think we'll probably use that here in a second. Okay, so we've got our 2 bows. Let's see if our signs are good. Okay, I think so. Let's try it. So again, I want the boy there and the girl about right there. Okay, so our signs are dry. I've got them on here. I did want to show you one thing. On the back of these signs is a little hook right up at the top. So I wrapped a pipe cleaner around the hook that's attached to this sign, just in case that cable mount ever comes off again. This is directly on the sign, and we're going to tie this in. So that just gives it an extra piece to have tied in so that the sign does not come off. So I'm just going to tie that around the frame. I like to add just a dab of hot glue right there on my pipe cleaner just so it doesn't come undone. So now we have our cute little gingies. We have the boy gingy just slightly higher than the girl gingy. Super cute. Okay, so now let's add our bows. We're going to add one bow right down here. Again, I'm going to feed it through that mesh. This can be the trickiest part sometimes. Through the mesh. Through the mesh again on the other side, and I'm going to tie it around the frame that's in the back. Give it a nice little twist. I'm going to cut off that excess and give it a dab of hot glue. Okay, so now we have our first bow. We'll cut our tails in just a second. Okay, let's put our other bow right up in this area. So I'm making sure to put it, I'm wrapping it around the top ring and not the bottom, because I don't want my bow to look like it's flopping. And sometimes if you tie it around that bottom, it can just kind of fall down on the side. So I'm making sure to tie it up nice and high up all around that top ring. And I'm going through the mesh to give it a little bit extra support to hang on to so that it doesn't flop. Okay, and I'm just twisting it and tying it around that top bar. Cut the excess off. Give it a little bit of glue. There we go. Okay, so now we have our two little funky bows. Let's trim up the tails. We don't want to cover these little gingies. They're so cute, so we want to fix our tails where not too much is hidden. So I'm just going to dovetail the ends. If you don't want to dovetail, you could cut them slanted as well. This is just kind of a fun whimsy design, so I think the dovetails work really nice. Okay. So we have our dovetails all done. Super cute. Let's do the other side. Now these up here I'm going to cut a little bit shorter because I don't want to hide her face. She's so cute, we want to be able to see her. So I'm going to make the tails a little bit shorter. Oh my gosh, you guys, so cute. So you could, if you wanted to make just a really cute, inexpensive design, you could totally stop there. You've got two bows, you've got our signs, and you've got the mesh. So some people really like the mesh wreaths and they want to be able to see it. They don't want it all hidden with the ribbons and all of that stuff. So you could totally stop here if you wanted, but we're going to keep going. Okay, so now we're going to add some tails around the outside. And what I've done is I've taken our ribbon that we had, our our 4 different styles, and I've cut them 14 inches. So they're 14 inches. And I'm just going to lay them on top of each other. I'm going to fold it in half, scrunch it up. Okay, and I'm going to find one of these ties in here and tie it. Okay, let's do the next one. I'm just alternating the colors. Now this one, let me show you. I ran out of ribbon, so this one isn't quite 14 inches, but that's okay. It's underneath the arm of this sign, so I'm okay with it. I'm gonna use it right in there, and you're not even gonna really be able to tell. So let me find twist ties and tie it in. Okay, so I've done 2 ties. Now what I'm going to do is make like a little half bow on the next one. So we're going to do 2 ties, a half bow, 2 ties, a half bow. So I'm going to take let's do the red, and I'm just going to make a little loop and pinch it. We've got a little loop, and then I'm just going to give this a twist so that my tails are facing out. Let's put that in our little twisty ties. I think I'm going to skip one, and I'm going to do it right here. And I'll show you why in just a second, because that other twist tie is right up under her legs. And it's going to kind of hide that. So let me dovetail the ends. So this tie is like right up in there. So I'm going to go in with one more tail. Then we have our little half bow. Let's skip. We've got our big bow here. So let's find a spot and let's do a tail. Okay, let's go ahead and do another half bow. We'll use the gingerbread. So again, I'm just going to make a little loop, pinch it, twist so that my ribbon is facing forward. Let me get a dovetail on these. tail. Okay, in this spot, let's do a little half bow right here. We'll use the red this time. That a dovetail. And then we'll add our last tail right up in these ties underneath the bow. Super cute. Okay, so we've gone all the way around with some tails, a few little half bows, and you can see how cute that looks. So now let's add, I think the last thing we're going to add, remember I want to keep this fairly simple. I have these little ornament balls that are super cute, that have the colors that we're using. So let's tuck these into a few places. I'm going to take and cut the little hanger off. And I think I want one right up next to the side of him. So I'm going to add a bunch of blue. Just push that up in there. Okay, and then I think we'll do one down here, the bottom by her. Let's cut the tag off. Not the tag, but the little ornament piece. There we go. Okay. Add a bunch of blue down on the bottom. So we got one on either side. We've got two more that we can use. So I'm thinking maybe kind of up underneath the bow. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to do it up underneath the bow. That's going to help give that bow a little bit of lift as well. Put kind of up underneath that bow, and I'm going to do the same thing at the bottom down here. I'm going to go underneath that bow. So I'm going to let that cool down, those dry a little bit, and then I'm going to go back and hit it with some more hot glue just to make sure they're really in there nice and secure. But there we have it, guys. So that's all we're going to add on this one. We're going to keep it fairly simple, just a few ornament balls, some ribbon, some bows, and the two signs. I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye, guys.